Well, here's another example of Tauruses. Okay, so I took a whole bunch of Tauruses with the Libra Pentan. Okay, so we had singing examples, but the first three that had, the first five of them were all Libra with Aries. Taurus with Libra with an Aries with a pushy side to it. So they're Libra, they have the sense of beauty or nice stuff, but they have the Aries push or assertiveness. Queen Elizabeth II, she's there twice, okay. Margaret Navarro, Sicilian Queen, Jessica Lange, Adolf Hitler. They all wanted to have their style and their way, and they all were very powerful people. They had the Martian quality of the Aries. But their Martian quality was not the most social sense, it was what they were doing. Now, Taurus Libra with a Taurus theme, that's Venus, Venus, Venus. You have Joan Miro, a surrealistic painter, sculptor, Mohammed, and Helen Reddy, the singer I Am Woman. She's saying I Am Woman, Taurus Libra, Taurus. That really is Venus, Venus, Venus. How much closer to I Am Woman can you get? Just funny associations, just little associations. I know so little about them, but little enough ones think, huh, that seems to be connecting. Then you get to the Gemini phase of Taurus Libra, and you have Christos Tsiolkas, gay writer, short films. So, and expressing it, wife of the King of France, Catherine de Medici, Robert Oppenheimer, the physicist who invented the atom. Taurus Libra, but he had the Gemini, he still invented the atom bomb. He had the design and the plan that blew up Hiroshima and the karma, I guess. Then you have Immanuel Kant, the philosopher, writing about his what isn't right, what isn't real, but he had his thoughts about how things were. Jack Nicholson, the actor, had the Gemini phase to this, and Charles Mingus, the jazz musician, had his Gemini mercurial side, and Nikolai Lenin. They all were Taurus Libra with a mental focus, with a mental specialty. When it goes to Cancer, Taurus, you have Venus, Venus, then the moon of Cancer. So Sandra Dee, a teen star. We just all loved her. Everyone listened. She was on the radio. When she came out, it was just related to her from a feeling sympathy level. Yehudi Menuhin, violinist, very special guy that you could feel him. Like I'd put the feeling to the Cancer. Oliver Cromwell, British politician. I don't know. Except he fought for the homeland. I'm not sure. Then he was on the sea and stuff. I really not so clear on those ones because I don't know those people that well. Taurus Libra, Leo was Roy Orbison and Barbara Streisand. Taurus Libra and the singers that they had. Leonardo da Vinci is inventing his beautiful, fantastic images. Had the Taurus Libra, Leo sub-pentan, and Guru Nanak, first of the Sikh gurus, he had his ideas in this too. Then Shirley MacLaine, the actress, she was the actress, but she wrote her books and she was quite famous and known. So they all had the Leo need to show it, need to get it out. It's the thing with Roy Orbison. A lot of his songs, you read his songs, they're heart-rending songs. It's over, it's over. You know, like a lot of times he was singing about his daughter, not about his lover. His daughter died he was out working one weekend. His daughter died in a fire in his home. It was a big sorrow in his life, and many of his soulful, sad songs were tied into that. But Taurus, Libra, Virgo, you expect a more practical or physical side to it, but there's another fifth Sikh guru, Marconi, who he's an inventor. He had the Virgo analytical side, but the event, sound systems, which made all our lives more beautiful. It really had a Taurus, Libra phase to it. So this is just going off the top and working with it. Really, you're working with your chart. You're going to think on it. You're going to reflect. You're going to sleep on it. You're going to have a coffee on it. You're going to sleep on it. You just keep it with you for a few days until you say, oh, yeah, I see that. So again, here's just all colored in the Aries, the Taurus, with the colors on the 3 levels. It isn't colored this first. It is Aries and Taurus. The first sign isn't colored. Then this is without the coloring, just the symbols. Gemini, Cancer. The coloring of the pentans, but just the symbols of the sub-pentans. And this is just the coloring of the pentans and the sub-pentans for Gemini and Cancer. How are we doing for time? Oh, good. We're okay. a lot of ground to go over. This is a wonderful, this whole area of pentans and sub-pentans. It's a wonderful extra. You're really going into the meanings and the depth of degrees of the zodiac, of unique areas of vision where they have deeper meanings. And there's probably 20 or 30, maybe 40, 50 books people have written, putting their beliefs and their feelings and their interpretations, some mental, some emotional, some mathematical, some intuitive. They put their meanings into what each degree of the zodiac would mean. There's a whole hodgepodge of ideas that intuitively have come down that people have put down into their books on degrees of the zodiac. We'll be getting to that. But this is a really logical foundation to it. It's by going to the pentans and then allowing for the sub-pentan. You have a really natural continuity from the sign to the pentan to the sub-pentan. It's not irrational logic. It's there just like musical rhythms and patterns within patterns. So again, Leo, Virgo. We've done this for, I'm just going through each of them. I'm not going to, there's not a lot to say about each of them because they're doing the same things, but it's important to see them and you see how they work. Now there's a list that we're coming up that will give you the actual position so you can look it up on a list. But this is, I mean, how do you argue with colors like this? How do you argue with this organization? It works. You look at it, you can see these colors, you can see these tones, you can see these accentuations in a person's chart. With the sun, with the moon, with the ascendant, with the IC, these things become really incredibly lucid and useful tools. But if you didn't understand the daylight increasing, night increasing, daylight is greater, night increasing, if you didn't have a good sense of the four seasons to begin with, you would have trouble anchoring the four seasons within the signs, and you would have even much, it would be harder to see this. So I really worked you to get the foundations really solid, so now you can use that language of the foundations to help. It's like you learn the scales in music, but later on you learn melodies, then you learn harmonics, then there's all kinds of other things in music that evolve because you get your foundations in place. So there's Libra, Scorpio with the signs. Again, they're just trying to just pause for a minute. So if you decide you want to get a screenshot of them, one day I may do a book on this, but right now this is the way it is. And here's the sub-pentans for Libra and Scorpio with the pentans colored in. So you get the distinct picture of the masculine and feminine, the light and the dark. It's clearly there, the same as they see, same as the spring, summer, and fall, winter. The key thing you want to get is you have something in a feminine sign. As feminine signs start with Libra, and you just count the signs around and you lock it in. By the time you're in 5 or 10, you'll have this memorized and you'll be able to do it automatically. So these are the first drawings with the signs put in around them, to the pentans, to the signs. And then these other ones have recently added to express the color and see the color a little bit better of how it's not just a randomness, there's an actual order to how these things flow. Sag and Capricorn. And here again, the sub-pentans with the pentans colored. See, many people learn astrology and they just, you learn from the books you learn from, or you learn from the people you learn from. And the traditional way of astrology using the signs, and so for some reason, the daylight increasing and nighttime increasing, which is the source of everything, was not put in a lot of the Western astrology books. Dane Ridger was one of the first people writing about it that brought it out more clearly this century. It's always been there, but it wasn't really presented. It was easier to just present cardinal, fixed, mutable, fire, water, air, earth, and the rulership. But all of that came from the lightness and the darkness changing. So if you built up that astrology and you know things in that way, it's a little bit of regrouping to get you have to back up, get the foundations, listen again, and build it up, and then you start seeing clearly. It's a more refined tool. You have the Aquarius, Pisces, with the sub-pentans. sub-pentans with all the colors. Yeah, okay, we're good. So just as you can do this 3 levels with signs of this, with the colors, and you can see the different levels of colors, you can also do this with scales of music. How the 12 notes of the scale go around the zodiac and fit into the pentans and fit into the sub-pentans, and you can get a chord for every degree. For your music inclined, it's a whole other dimension of interpreting. So here's the whole, back to the sub-pentan turtle. Again, so we look at this, say, oh, it's so incredible. You look at any point, you get the sign, yeah, you can see the pentan, and this one I don't have the sub-pentans drawn because it's too small. But as you can see, where they are. So now you know how it is, being able to use it, other than with the pentans you can remember, and sometimes it's harder to remember the 10 degrees, the 12 signs in the 10 degrees or the 50 minutes. I've done it enough times I can reconstruct that, but that's more difficult. You work with the signs and you remember the pentans. And once you get that, then you can look, when you're still curious, you look up the next level. You look up the sub-pentans. So these 3 levels, okay, I'm back, sorry. Okay, so just as you have the 3 layers, there's a different focus. Like the zodiac is your main theme. So the sign of the zodiac is the main theme. The pentan, I call it a special focus. Okay, and the sub-pentan I call intimate detail. So these are the 3 levels, the main theme, the special focus within the main theme, and the intimate detail within that. It's kind of like, oh, colors are so much fun. If you meet someone, okay, you see someone on the street, you see their outer clothes, they got certain colors. You get the main theme. You don't know what their underwear or the other colors are. That's a special focus. You gotta get a little closer to find out about those things. They got an inner special, they have inner colors as well. And then they also have jewelries, pendants, other little things that are intimate detail within. They can all be, you have all these options for colors of how they fit within each other. That's a lot of different options, a lot of different ways to use color. So that's just applying to a person in a general sense, but I mean, you can see federal, provincial, municipal elections, politics. You can see hours, minutes, seconds, years, months, days. You know, there's so many places you have these 3 layers. Okay, so the main thing is to capture the main theme first of the sign. Then you go to the pentan, get that special focus, think about it. Then you focus on the intimate detail or sub-pentan. So we're going to take a few examples to go through on this. Oh yeah, before we do that, okay, okay, this was, let me just see what this example, what I say. In this case, the Gemini pentan will add a greater sense of independence to the Aries. This could increase the sense of mischievous and willingness to try anything once. The Leo sub-pentan adds an element of pride in having to be best. So you're just making a simple association through it, but when you start seeing, is this so? When you're looking at it, don't leave it just as theory. Is it so for you? Can you see, can you make these connections for you? Does it work for you? And sometimes you see it clearly, sometimes you might have a block somewhere, and you have a block on one certain point. So you're the Aries, and you have a sense of pride, but you don't do anything independent. Wow, it's blocking something there. Imagine having some skills that help that Aries to be a little more independent and try and ride a bike or try to do something independently, to dance freely, do something freely, to run, whatever, would suddenly improve the middle depth of this Aries, Gemini, Leo. So if you're trying to work with kids with problems or special needs, they usually have blocks in some places. And sometimes you can take just the Aries as too simple an archetype. You go in and see these inner things that you can reinforce. It can be really healing, really helpful.